The third video on biochemistry and public health about pesticides and trace organics, we focus on electronic waste and many other newly emerging issues. Hi, I'm KM, an associate professor of the School of Life Sciences, Chinese University of Hong Kong. Let's start with e-waste. Containing flame retardants and metal ions. In 2005, the European Parliament and Council on the restriction of the use of certain hazardous substances in electrical and electronic equipment listed out 6 hazardous substances banned are 4 metals of lead, cadmium, mercury, and hexavalent chromium, and 2 brominated flame retardants, PBB, polybrominated biphenyls, and PBDE, polybrominated diphenyl ethers. We have a separate video on metal intoxication. We won't go into any details for metals. Electronic waste, e-waste, are also known as WEEE, waste, electrical and electronic equipment, often contain mixtures of metals and brominated compounds. They have endocrine toxicity, respiratory, developmental, and reproductive toxicity. They could also affect DNA in lymphocytes. Unfortunately, in the last decade or so, these wastes are dumped to Hong Kong and China from countries of around the world, especially US. In fact, developmental neurotoxicity has been related to the aforementioned metals and compounds, including PAH, PCDD, PCDF. Hyperreactivity, cognition, attention, and behavioral problems could be their potential effects from chemicals of transplacental, lactation, and childhood exposures. These chemical contaminants are from different kinds of including television, air conditioners, refrigerators, electronic devices, computers, monitors, and mobile phones. In the last 2-3 decades, the levels of total TEQ dioxins and dioxin-like compound in breast milk from Sweden, as shown in this figure, has significantly decreased, whereas PBDE levels increased sharply. Depressed immune system and fewer cops in polar bear could be related to such sharp increase of PCBs and PBDE contaminations in Europe and the Arctic. PBDEs are now common contaminants in Europe and US. If you look at the structures of PBDEs as shown on top here, comparing with a natural hormone in our body called thyroxine, you can see they are highly similar with 2 phenyl rings linked with 1 oxygen. Just that PBDEs are brominated, thyroxine or thyroid hormones are iodinated. Both bromide and iodine are halogens. There are different brominations in PBDEs. For example, BDE 47, 99, and 153 are found have higher levels and high potential to interrupt our thyroid hormone system in our body. In other words, PBDEs are obviously hormone disruptors. Finally, we discuss some cases or emerging issues of health risk assessment. Firstly, to include trace organics and spreading around, and we could not avoid them. WHO standards and routine monitoring help us to understand the potential risks. We use a TEFTEQ approach to collectively monitor these compounds. Balancing risks and benefits is not easy. Risk assessment of how much can we take these compounds, these chemicals, have been difficult, but various guidelines set according to different countries, from food compositions applying to those countries. Here we have several cases of balancing risk and benefits of daily consumption of milk and fish, with fish in particular, in one hand, contaminated with trace organics and having sufficient amount of omega-3 fatty acids or DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, from fish, such as salmon. From these reports, here we could see that the frequency of consumption, meal sizes, are essential issues for balancing the risks and benefits of regular fish consumption. You may read these reports online to learn more. The second example is the consumption of cheese. For instance, here is some real data from buffalo mozzarella, with cheese found with over 3 picogram TEQ per gram fat of dioxins and dioxin-like compounds. European Union (EU) has a tolerable weekly intake of 14 picogram TEQ per kg per week. WHO monthly intake limit is 70 picogram TEQ per kg per month, assuming the detected level of dioxins and dioxin-like compounds of 5 picogram per TEQ per gram fat and 12 picogram TEQ per gram in fish meat. Please calculate your suggested maximum amount of fish and cheese to be consumed by a 70 kilogram body weight person, according to the EU and WHO standards. Please show the calculations with the following hints. 1 ounce is 28.35 grams would contain 5 grams fat in cheese. Please find time to work it out on your own or with your classmates. The third case here is in Hong Kong. Green groups and the local communities are asking for zero tolerance, which is not feasible. To strengthen the level, if stricter than the Codex WHO standard, can only harm business or trading. Countries are setting national standards more stringent than international standards. This is a trade war rather than setting scientific standard to lower risk of toxicants. How do we draw a line here in Hong Kong? 1 or 4 picogram TEQ per kg body weight per day? What studies do we need to substantiate such guideline scientifically? For food composition and contamination survey, list 12 food types we should include in a study. The last item in our agenda is plastic materials, which are becoming more serious as newly emerging materials. There are at least 7 types of plastics, and mixed with pesticides are DEHP, diethyl phthalate in PVC, polyethylene PE, and polyethylene terephthalate PET. They are all well-known estrogenic compounds. With other plastic added materials like bisphenol A, BPA, they could even be found in glass and metal containers or bottles, mostly used in medical equipment, but hard to determine the tolerable daily intake values. China is the leading country with the highest world consumption and disposal of pesticides. Same is true in Taiwan, and they even linked it to the lower birth rate in Taiwan. Finally, look into mixtures of chemicals we have as contaminants. How do we study the mixture effects? BDEs, BPA, and pesticides, these chemicals, are found to be related to intermediate obesity and even diabetes. There are also many human pharmaceuticals dumped into the ocean. Recent studies also showed preterm birth problems could be related to PBDE, and Epigenetic effects or transgeneration effects of these chemicals are also reported. Environmental health perspectives of the study in trace organics and other chemical compounds are important issues and important research areas. Thank you for watching and hope you have learned from the videos the important concepts and emerging issues on public health issues related to chemical contaminations, especially from foods. Bye now.